So welcome all to New Perspectives and the Ideal of Human Unity, a spiritual perspective on world affairs. And in this series, our speakers will venture beneath the surface of our outer political events to take a deeper look at the undercurrent of world events in the light of Sri Aurobindo. Joining us in this 8-part series is Sumitra Basu, Consciousness-Based Consulting, Shruti Bivekar of Sakar, Jeff Janot of Pro-Social World, and of course with us on the panel today, Ulrich Moorhoff, physicist, author, and instructor, Martha Orton, instructor and author, and Shraddhalu Ranade, scientist, educator, and scholar. And this series will end in May with a panel discussion amongst Dr. Sumitra Basu, Dr. Parashit Singh, and Dr. Makandra Paranchape. If I have butchered anyone's last name, I sincerely apologize. But we do welcome you, Ulrich, and we're so happy to have you on the panel today with us. Namaste. And here we have Martha also. So we may find a few of the other speakers joining us as we go through this. So as we begin, Sri Aurobindo, as most of you know, contributed uniquely and significantly to political philosophy on many fronts. One such contribution is the emergence of world unity as a manifestation of a higher supramental consciousness. Another is his understanding of the intricate workings of nature and its process in spiritual evolution. And critically, the idea of a religion of humanity required to make human unity a reality. A religion founded not on dogma or creed, but on 3 supreme social values Sri Aurobindo refers to as the 3 Godheads of the soul: liberty, equality, and brotherhood. Here Sri Aurobindo states that the achievement of a true world unity, quote, can only be secured when founded upon a change of the inner human nature and inner way of living. Liberty, equality, and brotherhood, the 3 Godheads, he says, of the soul, cannot be achieved through the external machinery of society or by man so long as he lives only in the individual and the communal ego. He goes on to say that when the ego claims liberty, it arrives at competitive individualism. When the ego asserts equality, it arrives first at strife, then in an attempt to ignore the variations of nature, and in doing so, it constructs an artificial and machine-made society. And for the ego to speak of brotherhood is for it to speak of something contrary to its nature. All that the ego is an association for the pursuit of the common egoistic ends, and the utmost that it can achieve at is a closer organization for the equal distribution of labor, production, consumption, and enjoyment. However, a new world order founded on unity is made possible by the descent of the supramental consciousness. Of this new world order, Mother says, quote, we humans should think of ourselves as the last species of the animal world. The new world will not tolerate the animal man anymore. The new world will allow only the conscious man who wants to leap towards the future, who wants to prepare for the new race. The new world will have a new spirituality, new light, new creation, new race, which will be the harbinger of the truth. So today, Vladimir and I would like to set the stage for this new perspective series on the ideal of human unity by positing a cosmic viewpoint of Earth's role in the universe and its exclusive Dharma. On Earth, the universe expresses itself in a unique physical form, and the concept of diversity within unity is playing out on both the material and spiritual realms. These concepts, as well as nature's critical role in our evolutionary process, will be discussed by Vladimir. But first, let us explore the question, does the notion of unity go beyond human unity? Is Earth somehow intimately interconnected with the far-off stars and galaxies, making a universal unity feasible? Of course, it's impossible to fully investigate these questions in the little time allotted today, but we can at least speculate on a possible answer from a scientific as well as spiritual perspective. From a scientific perspective, we have the discovery of quantum entanglement, or non-locality in quantum physics. Non-locality is the ability of objects to instantly influence one another no matter how far apart they are, even if billions of light years apart in space. And non-locality challenges our conventional understanding of space and time and has led many in the scientific community to profound philosophical inquiries about the nature of the universe and the possibility of a fundamental interconnectedness of all things in the cosmos. Though more must first be discovered, quantum physics may in the future provide a scientific link to understanding Earth's fundamental relationship with the distant planets and stars and universes. Indeed, one scientist ventures that as the limits of human capacity to comprehend reality is stretched, the implications of quantum phenomenon is likely to define a new, more comprehensive view of Earth and its interrelationship with the universe. So the scientific community is just beginning to explore and to speculate about a fundamental truth to the integral vision of Sri Aurobindo, that the entire universe, countless galaxies, millions of planets, billions of stars, are all a progressive manifestation of the One Supreme. Sri Aurobindo says, quote, "He is that which has become the universe and is the universe, and everything which it contains. He is that which has become the universe and is the universe and everything which it contains." So the stars, the planets, the galaxies are Him, the One Supreme, the divine behind everything, forming a unified field of universal interconnectedness. But today we are still living in a very mental stage of development, which is that of a divided consciousness whose nature is not to synthesize or to harmonize or to find any unifying factor behind things. But its nature is to differentiate, to break things down into parts and individual pieces, to discover the difference rather than similarity between objects or ideas. So from a mental perspective, the realization of an underlying unity based on the oneness inherent in all creation is perhaps problematic. Such a realization requires a vaster, higher spiritual perspective. And such is the perspective of the Vedic rishis of the distant past, who cognized truth through supramental or super-rational functions, such as intuition, revelation, and knowledge by identity. Truths were revealed to them through experiences, and then codified in highly symbolic terms. Interestingly, the interconnectedness between the Earth and stars millions of light years away seems to be known or experienced by the ancient rishis. So today, I'd like to share a few insights from my 5-year research initiative concerning a set of constellations that were of significance to the Vedic rishis. For throughout the Vedas and the supporting Brahmanas and the epics and later Puranic and Ayurvedic literature, which is a 6,000-year span of time, we find hundreds and hundreds of references suggesting a relationship or entanglement between these far-off constellations and our solar system. What started out for me as a possible research article 10 years ago ended up in the publication of a 300-page book called The Divine Forces of the Lunar Nakshatras. And of course, since then, new ideas have emerged from my readings of Sri Aurobindo's writings, which I'd like to incorporate in my talk today. So beginning with India's earliest spiritual scripture, the Rig Veda, codified maybe 3000, 4000 BC, mention of the different distant stars are found. Here they are referred to as nakshatras, which is a Sanskrit term that means fixed stars. The Rig Vedic rishis ponder the stars, quote, "Whether by day depart the nakshatras that shine at night, set high in heaven above us. They admire them, quote, like a dark steed adorned with pearls. The fathers have decorated heaven with the nakshatras. And they pair them with the moon. as the moon, Soma, in the midst of all these nakshatras is his place. So the association of the moon with the nakshatras is noteworthy because of particular interest to the Vedic rishis are a set of constellations that could be seen in the background as the moon orbits around Earth. And these constellations they refer to as the lunar nakshatras. And as the moon traverses a lunar nakshatra, the Vedic rishis notice special influences or correlations here on Earth, suggesting perhaps a non-local universe, an interconnected, holistic universe. And according to scripture, the fuller the moon, the stronger the influence. And as early as the Rig Veda, not only were the nakshatras eulogized, but we find individual lunar nakshatras identified. For example, referenced in the 47-verse Wedding Sukta, Rig Vedic 10.85, which is cognized by Rishika Savitri, this divine wedding ceremony takes place between the daughter of the sun, Surya, and the moon, Soma, as the moon transits three subsequent nakshatras identified as Magha, Purva Palguni, and Uttara Palguni. This is the very first reference we find to specific lunar nakshatras. And of course, spiritual experiences of the Rig Vedic rishis are revealed symbolically, but Sri Aurobindo tells us that a symbol is the form on one plane that represents the truth of another higher plane. And Sri Aurobindo explains that in Vedic literature, the moon, or Soma, is a symbol of that, quote, luminous, blissful one, and, quote, the Lord of the wine of delight and immortality, which of course describes the soul. And the sun is described as the Lord of the supreme truth, and so his daughter, Surya, is the Shakti or power of the supreme truth. So in this Rig Vedic Wedding Sukta, Rishika Savitri reveals her experience of the eternal commitment, symbolized by a wedding ceremony, of the soul to the highest truth and its power. And the Rishika goes on to describe the occasion as one of great extravagance and festivity, one which was never witnessed by the gods before. So no doubt this event is of extreme spiritual importance, but also of importance is the astronomical reference to three lunar nakshatras, Magha, Purva Palguni, and Uttara Palguni. And this reference implies knowledge of the significance of these nakshatras, some 300 to 400 million light years away, with this divine event. Several thousand years later, in the Atharva Veda is the fourth Veda, the same divine event is recounted by the rishis, but with new details disclosed, still occurring under the same three nakshatras. And in the later Puranic literature, Shiva's marriage to Sati takes place as the moon traverses Purva and Uttara Palguni. Today, the significance of these three nakshatras are codified in Hindu tradition. For in India, it is considered auspicious for a wedding ceremony to take place as the moon traverses Magha and Purva and Uttara Palguni, making the typical Hindu wedding a 3-day event, the same as the daughter of the sun's Rigvedic marriage to the moon. So over thousands of years, a spiritual experience of Rigvedic Rishika Savitri, this eternal commitment of the soul to the highest truth, descends from the realm of revelation and is fixed in the physical realm as a marriage between a man and a woman under these three nakshatras. And by the time of the second Veda, the Yajur Veda, so this is probably around 2000 or 1500 BC, 27 lunar nakshatras are identified, each one consisting of a single star or cluster of stars and all millions of light years away. The Yajurveda rishis distinguish their stellar configurations, assign them Sanskrit names, and anoint one or more godheads as their divine rulers. 33 nakshatra godheads in total. And added to this nomenclature are hundreds of epic proportion legends involving the nakshatras and their godheads, told and retold with the passage of time. For example, the stars of Magha, Magha means mighty one, is in the shape of a royal throne and ruled by the ancestors. And interestingly, if you recall in this wedding sutta, the ancestors bless the occasion as Surya mounts the royal chariot, which will take her to Soma's home under Magha Nakshatra. And Purva and Uttara Palguni, well, they consist of 4 stars in the form of 4 posts of a matrimonial bed. Its anointed godheads are Adiman and Bhaga, who in this same wedding sutta are the divine escorts of Surya as she rides upon her chariot to Soma's home. And Palguni, it's a name for a fig tree, which to this day is considered a symbol of fertility in India. And this is just one of hundreds of examples that I came across in my research of how the Vedic rishis interconnected experiences and legends with the distant stars. And during this period of the Yajurveda, as we know, grand yajnas are performed with minute and very exacting sacrificial protocol. And so here, these prescriptively performed outer sacrifices becomes the symbol on the physical plane of a higher truth, the inner sacrifice as revealed by the Rigvedic rishis. So knowledge of the inner sacrifice is systematized and it's fixed to the physical realm, probably least the sacred knowledge be lost over. And in the Yajurveda and accompanying brahmanas, the lunar nakshatras and their godheads take center stage in the most sacred of all yajnas, the Soma Yajna. Positioned at the top of the 5-layer altar, representing the vault of heaven, are 33 stoma bhagyas, praise-sharing bricks, structured in a continuous ring and loosely covered with dirt. These are the privileged seats of the 33 lunar nakshatra godheads, who among the hundreds of godheads are exclusively invited, one by one, to partake of the Soma libation, earning them the designation the Soma drinking godheads. And seated collectively in a circle at the vault of heaven, they are declared the heart and soul of the Soma ceremony. And next to them, next to these 33 praise-sharing bricks, are placed 27 nakshatra bricks. Quote, he puts down the nakshatra bricks. These are the lights of the sky. Verily, he makes these lights into a reflection to light up the world of heaven. So here the nakshatra bricks are considered the citadels of the gods, with Kritika nakshatra as its gateway. Having Lord Agni as its anointed godhead, Kritika nakshatra is considered the celestial portal through which the gods descend upon earth. And this is likely because beginning around 3000 BC, the vernal equinox occurred in Kritika. And this vernal equinox is particularly auspicious, for it marks the midpoint of the sun's northern course. It's a day in which the sun rises precisely due east, the designated direction or region of the heaven and the gods. So towards the end of the Brahmanic period, we have the last of the 4 Vedas, the Atharva Veda, and its primary focus is on health and disease, and is the precursor to the later classical Ayurvedic texts. But as in the previous era, the worship of the nakshatras and their ruling godheads remain at the forefront. And interestingly, here, knowledge of their special role in the healing process and association with certain illnesses and diseases are revealed. And in another auxiliary text, when to plant seeds and harvest grains are determined by the full moon's transit through specific nakshatras. And to this day, farmers plant and harvest crops based on this information. So in summary, since the beginning of recorded time, the Vedic rishis comprehend a special relationship between the fixed stars hundreds of millions of light years away, with the moon and with the earth. And this knowledge is not exclusive to India. Other ancient civilizations, including Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and China, recognize the interconnectedness of the earth and the moon with the same set of stars, though assigning different godheads to each. Nearly all ancient civilizations recognize the symbolic significance of the sun rising precisely due east during the vernal equinox, with the stars of Kritika Nakshatra in the background. In fact, we find grand dwellings are built in accordance with this alignment. For the Egyptians, it is the Great Pyramid of Giza, but other ancient monuments, including the British stone circles, Polynesian temples, and the pyramids of South America, are similarly aligned. So truly, there seemed to be a time when humanity lived in unison with Mother Earth and aligned itself with the natural rhythms and the cycles of the celestial bodies. Is the understanding of an intimate relationship between the planets, stars, sun, and moon by these ancient civilizations a figment of imagination? Or is it symbolic of a higher and deeper truth? That the entire universe, billions of stars, millions of planets, countless galaxies, are all a progressive manifestation of the One Supreme. This is the highest truth, a truth that connects all that is, for all are Him. And this realization fosters a profound sense of universal harmony and reveals what Sri Aurobindo says, the secret urge in all of nature is towards unity. That within nature herself is the secret urge towards unity. So I really thank you for allowing me to kind of take you on this journey through time, a journey I experienced as I went deeply into this research, and a journey that, at least for me, illustrates the interconnectedness of everything in the universe, as first perceived, by the ancient Vedic rishis. And before turning it over to Vladimir, I would just like to leave you with a very profound message from Sri Aurobindo regarding the three godheads of the soul, liberty, equality, and brotherhood, which I mentioned at the beginning of the talk. And of this triple gospel of the religion of humanity, liberty, equality, and brotherhood, Sri Aurobindo claims that brotherhood is the key. He states, quote, "The union of liberty and equality can only be achieved by the power of human brotherhood, and it cannot be founded on anything else. But brotherhood exists only in the soul and by the soul. For brotherhood is not a matter either of physical kinship or of vital association or of intellectual agreement. When the soul claims liberty, it is liberty for its self-development of the divine in man, in all his being. When it claims equality, what it is claiming is that same liberty equally for all, and the recognition of the same soul, the same Godhead in all human beings. When it strives for brotherhood, it is founding the equal freedom of self-development on a common aim, a common life, a unity of mind and feeling founded upon the recognition of this inner spiritual unity. These three things," he continues, "liberty, equality, and brotherhood, are in fact the nature of the soul, for they are the eternal attributes of the spirit. It is the practical recognition of this truth. It is the awakening of the soul in man and the attempt to get him to live from his soul and not from his ego, which is the inner meaning of religion. And it is that to which the religion of humanity also must arrive before it can fulfill itself in the life of the race." So I thank you once again, and I'd like to now turn it over to Vladimir, whose focus will be on Mother Earth and her unique Dharma, as well as nature. Vladimir?
Yeah, thank you, Radhe. It's very a good beginning for us to see the bigger picture where Earth belongs, and that the human unity, the ideal of human unity, is interconnected with the cosmos. And in this cosmos, Earth has a unique position and a unique role. Actually, it incorporates both developments. As we quoted already in our introduction, that this terrestrial evolutionary working of nature from matter to mind and beyond it has a double process. There is an outward visible process of physical evolution with birth as its machinery. For each evolved form of body housing its own evolved power of consciousness is maintained and kept in continuity by heredity. There is at the same time an invisible process of evolution with rebirth into ascending grades of form and consciousness as its machinery. So on one side we have the evolution of the body, this Darwinian evolution, and on the other side there is the soul, which is reincarnating and pushing forward the development of the body, and at the same time, with the help of the body, evolves itself into the higher grades. This vision was not very clear, even in Indian tradition. Yes, reincarnation was there, yes, but the evolution of the soul, evolution of consciousness was not totally seen, yes, so to say. And that is what Sri Aurobindo says when he starts his the ideal of human unity. It's quite interesting that what he says, nothing is more obscure to humanity or less seized by its understanding, whether in the power that moves it or the sense of the aim towards which it moves, than its own communal and collective life. It's quite interesting to say this way, and we could think why. Because there is a global unity, and we will have to look into this. I prepared some kind of bullet points for discussion here for myself to address here in this presentation. First of all, if we look at the Indian tradition, we will see that there was an understanding that the human life on earth is of double nature. It's immediately understood. If you look at the Agnihotra ritual, Vedi, altar, you will see that there are three fires. One is the central fire for earth, Garhapatya, where the oblation is made with Rigvedic hymns. To the right there is Pitris, Dakshina fire with the Yajurveda hymns. To the left there is the Ahavaniya fire for the gods. So to the left, to the north, facing the north, there is Devayana, the development of our spiritual nature. To the south, there is Pitriyana, that very Soma, the development of our embodied state, the instruments of knowledge, our bodies. And in the middle, these two come together and constitute our human life. So Devayana developing our soul with the solar home. Solar home is for the development of the soul. And Pitriyana with moon and nakshatras is our bigger cosmos, the development of the physical being. So interestingly, Mother says that the earth has its unique position in one regard, that it is the psychic being of the universe. It is only on earth that things can change and develop and grow. We can see that everything is growing here. Being born from the seed, the plants are growing to the trees, then they dry up and die. And they produce progeny. They continue in time and space by this genome. They pass all the changes they acquired in their lifetime towards the future. And in that sense, Mother mentions that Earth has this psychic presence. It is in all the plants, it is in the flowers, it is very visible and very tangible in the flowers, the psychic presence. And she mentions that all the other beings which are not born on Earth, such as, gods and Rakshasas and so on, there are many other beings in the vital world, mental world, and beyond. If they want to change and grow in consciousness, they have to take the physical embodiment on Earth. So this is a unique position of Earth. And Radhe rightly said that the human unity, actually, it is about the divine unity. The human unity is impossible in general, and we read about this in the Ideal of Human Unity by Sri Aurobindo. He says any artificial outward unity is a fake thing because the real tendency has to be found. The real drive is the soul drive, which has to be revealed and understood by all. So basically what is interesting that the real unity is, I may say, holographic in its nature, so to say. Every man has to be composed, united, yukta in the terms of the Veda. His will, heart, and mind are to be one, to become one, united, and centered around psychic being, the divine presence on earth. And notice the divine presence in man, the psychic being, and the psychic being of earth are connected. And this connection has to be seen, and it is revealed in the formation of nations and nation souls. So there is the whole procedure, which is very unique and very difficult to understand. That's why he says so, that it is most obscure thing for humanity. And also, if we look at the marriage, which Radhe mentioned of Surya and Soma, some of you may remember that in the Mother India, Sri Aurobindo, long ago, they published notes of Sri Aurobindo on the beginning of human race, his visions. It's a very unique vision. When the lofty divine beings, but with typal consciousness, came to Earth and discovered that on Earth there is an evolution of species taking place, that Soma is there. And they kind of surrendered to the Aboriginal tribes. And this mixture of the spiritual, lofty, typal beings with evolutionary earthly beings created something, the prototype of human beings. I will not go into details here because of lack of time, but this unique vision of the marriage of those lofty divine beings, it reminds me of the marriage of Surya and Soma, when they come together, they constitute a totally new process of evolution in consciousness and being. Yes, the very idea of the Soma Yagya, what Radhe mentioned, is the same. Soma is the elixir, as the delight within the nature. It is that greenery. Yes, Soma is the ambrosia, the amrita hidden in the plants as a sap, as a juice, as an organic matter which can grow, evolve, support the spiritual soul which comes. And this marriage of Soma and Surya creates a totally new possibility of evolution of consciousness and being. We see it also in Savitri and Satyavan, the same story. Savitri is the daughter of the sun. She comes to save the soul of humanity, Satyavan. Yes. The same story, and by the way, it is considered to be the most ancient story. Markandeya himself says that it is the very ancient story, though he is an immortal being. So that also explains something very interesting, why Advaitic illusionism is so wrong and dangerous. Because if we deny, the very purpose of our growth here, through soma, through the embodied state, by rejecting growth of the body, the soul also stops growing. So the soul is considered to be static, something which you have to just go and dissolve yourself in the bigger spirit. So the very purpose of this manifestation is denied. If we deny the growth of the soul by materialism, we also come to the end of the body's growth, and body starts to stagnate and regress. So both of these elements play together, and this is our major message today, to open with the discussions on every plane. There will be more speakers, and they are also here. I see Ulrich is here, Parikshit, Makrand is here, and Martha. It's nice to see all of you here for this important beginning of this great topic. So maybe I will stop here and open, since you are all here, and it would be more interesting to use our time in this discussion.
And if possible, if you could also show your video, please.
Yeah, it would be easier to communicate. Yes, in case you want to speak. Yes, right. Makrand is here also. Parikshit, namaste. So what do you think about this profound topic from the global, from the universal perspective, these two homes which come together, the solar home of the soul and this cosmic home of our embodied state and delight?
So
Yes,
I'm in India right now, so it's almost dinner time, so I might have to excuse myself, but I was fascinated, as well as, should I say, very, very enlightened by Radheji's brilliant talk. So I want to congratulate you on that, first of all. And I also want to say that there's no such thing as an ancient Saudi civilization, but that's a different matter. There were other civilizations there, perhaps Mesopotamian, Sumerian in that region. But the Saudi identity is very, very recent, in fact, a British creation. So we leave that one aside. But what's really fascinating is that, I feel there are two parts to what you said. I mean, the first and the last, in the light of what we have understood from Sri Aurobindo and the unity, the cosmic unity, the divine unity, and the human, should I say, both aspiration and struggle to accomplish that unity. And Vladimir talked about that, also very brilliant. How human unity is impossible, he said. I mean, I like that, because look at what's happening in Ukraine, in Russia, in Gaza, etc. But I think you're touching on something really profound. The Shatapatha Brahmana, the creation of the altar. But now we have some information about these ancient civilizations, which also ties in with what Vladimir said about the idea that these highly evolved beings came to the earth, mated with whoever they found, and created a new race, as it were, which would then take evolution forward. So again, we leave that aside for a moment. But what I wanted to come back to in your line of research, which I think is really important, is all these ancient monuments, not just the pyramids or Stonehenge you mentioned, but even more recently, the Brihadishvara temple. They're all based on some the precessional order, and the alignment of the stars, and certain things that were happening periodically. And we also now understand that before the great flood, before that ancient world was completely destroyed, our ancestors left some stories for us, the idea of this rainbow serpent. Some people speculate that a comet came and hit the earth. And many of these ancient prehistoric monuments, in Turkey, for instance, they've discovered cities underneath. And they all have these depictions of what might have happened, which brought that old world completely to an end. And then, of course, the Great Flood, which happened all over the world, and a kind of rebooting. See, this brings us back to our current time, whether we are possibly facing another rebooting of some kind. Things are getting incomprehensible now, in different parts of the world. So I think our conversation is of great importance. I mean, I don't have any profound insights. I'm just acknowledging what you said, and also the direction in which some research needs to be made. Because as Aurobindonians, we cannot be static. We can't just be repeating, as I've heard over and over again, Sri Aurobindo said, the mother said, Sri Aurobindo said, the mother said. This goes on and on and on. And then if you ask, what are you saying? Do you mean to say evolution stopped in 1950 or 1973? There's no answer. Some people slap you on the wrist by saying you're too mental, etc. So I'm saying that here's an opportunity for certain lines of thinking, certain lines of research to open up. We have more facts, new things have come to light, and it seems that the ancient world had some commonalities and had some understanding, as you rightly said. And if I had your script in front of me, I could respond better, but I just absorbed some of the things you said. And I think there's a lot there to be taken forward. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madhuranga. Somebody else wants to say something on this kind of cosmic vision of Parikshit and Ulrich and Martha?
Dr. Singh has his mic unmuted. Please.
Yeah, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I think this is a very beautiful beginning. It's so much to learn. I feel very humbled listening to so much wisdom. And as we realize we've just scratched the surface of some very ancient documentation and record of tremendous spiritual experiences, occult experiences. And it's really, I think if we see the presentness of the past, if I may coin that word, and the pastness of our present, to play on T.S. Eliot a little bit. And maybe in that simultaneity of time, if that we can see that, then we see everything happening, coming together. And I think this is a wonderful realization of how we are still connecting to some ancient realization that is manifesting through us in different ways. And that is a very joyous realization, just the understanding of Soma and how Soma and Surya come together. Soma being a symbol of Ananda and Surya being the symbol of Satchidananda, and how beautifully it is depicted in a very poetic, symbolic manner that we can still relate to it with multiple interpretations. There's no one interpretation we can tie to it, and each individual can give a subtle nuance to it, each individual, but the same seven-tongued flame of Agni coming out in that heart, and through the Agni Pavaka, as Sri Aurobindo calls it, the psychic being within us, the Chaitya Purush. So I commend you for this beautiful start. I'm grateful for this. And I know it is an extremely arduous and difficult journey that we all attempt as human beings on earth. And yet, it is the most joyous and rewarding journey there can be, and I would have it no other way. So thank you, and I appreciate this great wisdom coming from this forum, and I hope to keep attending more and more, and having your wisdom rub off on me more and more.
Thank you, Parikshit, so much. Yes, beautiful comments. Yeah, and some thoughts from Martha or Ulrich?
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. And I really appreciate what Radhe said about commonalities. I think common culture is certainly a key to brotherhood. And especially in the ancient past, we experienced that. So it's good to reflect on that and to remember. And I think it was so important that Vladimir mentioned that brotherhood is really the challenge. And I think perhaps as people come together and realize face to face that their commonalities, that may be helpful. Certainly the religion of humanity, as Sri Aurobindo has described it, is pretty darn ideal. It's really wonderful, and I hope it will be achievable one day. I think we all have that hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Ulrich, you are with your vision of the...
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I think I share my wisdom through silence.
Can you share your thinking maybe through words?
And then for that you go to my Substack for the thinking part.
Or if any of the participants here would like to make a comment, you can raise your hand and we'll bring you over to join us. Or if you have any questions, just put it in the Q&A. This is like the first of a very important and long series of 8. So I'm sure that many ideas, many thoughts will gel as we kind of go through this series. But it's just so wonderful to have some of our speakers join us today and begin this dialogue with us and with the audience. Let's see, we have somebody raising their hands. And Tosh, let me just bring him over. I'm going to promote, whoops, what happened to him? Maybe he put his hand back down. Yeah, I think Santosh did, but let me just allow him to talk in case he wants. Oh, here he comes. Did you bring him over, Vladimir? Hi, Santosh. How are you? You can show your video if you'd like, or if not, just ask your question or make your comment. You are muted. Well, for anyone else, while we'll see if here comes Santosh. Namaste.
You're muted, Santosh.
No, he's not muted. He's just hard to hear. We can't hear you.
Something is with your microphone. You have to switch on. Yeah.
We do have a question in the meantime by Robin. Could Vladimir expand on how unity is holographic? How is consciousness universal in the individual? And then we'll come back to you, Santosh, and see if we can get your audio working.
Yes, this is a kind of thought which is coming from, as Makrand mentioned already, that we have to think ourselves, on the basis of Sri Aurobindo's knowledge. And holographic in a sense that the human unity is impossible as an imposition from outside, by political or by force or by artificial unity. So it needs to grow from within. So when we are united, so to say, as human beings within ourselves and centered around the psychic being, all our instruments of knowledge, then something else takes place. So then we can unite with other beings through our presence within. And that is the brotherhood. We recognize the divine presence in others. And by that recognition, the true, real unity can be achieved. It cannot be achieved by the consensus or by convention or by agreement, mental agreement. These are temporarily tools, as Sri Aurobindo explains in The Ideal of Human Unity. The real unity has to start from the each self, so to say. And if you look at the world, you will see that the physical world is unique. Today I went out in the morning and I was surprised to see such a variety, infinite variety of things. Nothing is repeating anything in the physical form. There are no, same leaves on the tree or same pebbles on the shore. There are nothing. Everything is infinitely different. If you think of it, then you will see the difficulty of the unity. So the unity has to be really realized from within by the finding of the divine presence. And then only it can be achieved. And human unity also is not a part in itself. It's not something separate from cosmos, as we tried to speak today about this. It is a part of the bigger cosmos and nature and other creatures on earth, because all of them are carrying this delight of soma, of development and growth. The greenery, the animal kingdom, human beings, they are all part of the same enterprise, spiritual enterprise. So it's not an easy task and very difficult to understand it. That's most probably the approximate answer to this.
Thanks, Vladimir. And Santosh, we see you back on, and then we'll get to you, Purnam, in a second. Let's see if we can hear you better now, Santosh.
Thank you so much, Radhe. Good morning to you all, and good evening if you are in other parts of the world. Wonderful platform, and I really appreciate the wisdom that Vladimir ji and Radhe ji you bring in, and other very informed and I think enlightened panelists time and again. Coming from a very mundane world, I always wonder, clearly Aurobindo was a huge personality with a lot of enlightenment he tried to communicate to people like us. But there's a lot of people, the mass in general, who probably don't get the privilege to read him, think about what he has been communicating. So the pace of progress, probably what he intended, or maybe I'm not sure what he intended, but I'm thinking the quality of writing and the message, definitely there was a sense of urgency, and he wrote, even for a simple question, 40, 50 pages of answers. That means that shows the amount of eagerness and I think commitment to make the world progress very fast. So the pace has to be that slow, or is there a better way to bring this connectedness, or as you rightly mentioned to my mind, the idea of universal brotherhood, which is key to soul's progress. And I can understand it's a circular relationship, liberty, equality, and brotherhood, or the connectedness. So what's the mechanism to make this process faster? And probably we are in the same boat, at least myself. I'm not as fast in really, although at an intellectual plane, it is understandable to some extent, but holding on to it and moving on without getting as much kind of drawn down by the other forces that also intersect. And if it happens to me, who I believe are reasonably more privileged to many others, I'm just wondering how the progress can be faster. Is there any thoughts on those? Or the pace has to be this way?
Yeah, thank you for this nice question. Maybe somebody wants to address this, Martha or Ulrich, how it can be faster, if it can be. The progress towards brotherhood.
Vlad, you hear me?
Yes, I hear.
Just tried to unmute me.
You are unmuted.
But,
we can hear you.
Yes. It's something I've been thinking of intensely for many years. The bridge between the wonderful future that Sri Aurobindo has assured us of, promised us, which is not in doubt, and the present situation. How do we get from here to there? And it's not really it is a question for each individual person. I don't think the answers to these questions are so individual and so personal that they'll be watered down, they lose their force if we share them. This is our individual, personal job. Of course, we can have mental speculations, but they amount to nothing. They contribute nothing. There is a force behind, there's a divine consciousness that wants to manifest itself, that looks for instruments that it might be able to use in some way or the other. So our job is to open ourselves to that, not to, have endless discussions and talking as we did today mostly about the past. No, we have to talk about the future. That's what matters. Now and the way from here to what will be. And as I said, the real actors are not us, not you and me, no. The real actor is the divine, and you open yourself and let him use you as his instrument. And how you will be used, to what end, you don't even have to understand. The divine knows how to use you and to what end. So, amen.
Amen. Amen. Yes. I know, Martha, you also had unmuted. Would you like to add anything? That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Ulrich, very much. I think you speak very truly. And I was just going to add that the supermind has an influence, but I think the individual opening is what really matters, as Ulrich said. Thank you.
Opening and self-giving goes together. We think of ourselves as the actors. We say we are opening up, but the real actor is someone who opens us up with a little help from ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know we have just a couple minutes here left, but Poonam, would you like to say a few things? You would have to unmute yourself. Perfect. Go ahead. We can't, there we go.
Yeah, this is the best platform where I can ask, clarify myself regarding the Rig Veda, which you are talking about, Radhe. Was it the seers that heard the mantras directly from the upper regions, or was it orally transmitted to the next disciple, whoever they thought the seer who received these impressions was directly conveyed to them, and it was orally taken out, or was it written in a written form? Was it recorded in a written form? What was the that is the thing I'm still not clear about regarding the Vedas, our Rig Veda starting with.
Sure, sure. Well, I will give you my impression and then turn it over to the expert Vladimir, who gives classes and teaches the Rig Veda. But from my understanding and my impression is that the Rig Vedic rishis, they had these they descended upon earth and they had these super rational powers that we are just now starting to tap into, which is this knowledge by identity, which is this inspiration and revelation. And so they received, if you will, through experiences. It's experiential what the Rig Vedic rishis are speaking about. And later codified through these in fact, even the experiences, from my understanding, were symbolic in nature. So it's important. We had some of the Westerners that were first exposed to the Rig Veda, and they're reading about cows, they're reading about rivers and nature, and they're completely missing the spiritual significance of this text. And I think the most important thing to me is that a lot of people say, that's the past. The Rig Veda's the past, 7,000 years ago. We don't need to revisit the past. But again, it is my understanding that these rishis come at the beginning of each manvantara, 300 million year period, and they deliver these messages to humanity that tells or speaks of the potential throughout that vast period of time. And so it's not just yesterday's message, it's messages of the possibilities of what can be accomplished in this period. And so this is why it's really important, at least here at La Grace, we believe, to expose people to these ancient texts, and particularly the Rig Veda, and the relevancy of what these rishis comprehended, what the rishis experienced, and to translate it in today's messages and understand its future relevance. So that's my understanding, and I would just turn it over to Vladimir to comment on.
You nailed it. Actually, the rishis speak archetypal language, and if it would not matter, Sri Aurobindo would not spend all his life trying to translate and interpret. And the last of his writings, and it is known from the archives, were interpretation of the Rig Vedic texts. So to say, he still continued this connection from the beginning of our endeavor, beginning of our project of the spiritual enterprise, is actually highlighted or expressed by Vedic rishis. They brought it down. So we are still following that project, only we changed the languages, the structures of consciousness, our civilization became too mental and so on. But the intent remains, yes, that impulse or that group soul impulse which they expressed in the Vedic texts is of utmost importance for all of us. And reconnecting with that historical depth shows us that we are one, actually, in the endeavor towards the future. If it would not mean anything, of course, we could drop it. It's easier not to spend so much time on it unless we see the meaning of it. When we see the meaning, we see the future. Yes? Then the time plays differently. So if we see only the cultural, some exposition, then of course it's of no use or value so much. And also, there are different approaches to knowledge. The psychological, what Ulrich expressed, is the direct, and immediate. And it does not require to spend any time on anything. It is realistic. It is now. It is with you, your intimate relation with the divine. It is a part of this many kind of faceted or many different approaches to knowledge, one of which is this, what we do. And psychological is so important. You are raising your hand already. Okay, Ulrike, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to remind you of a chapter in the Life Divine, which is known as the Methods of Vedantic Knowledge, where he builds a bridge between that past. Of course, he elaborates much more later on, but here he says that, all this Vedic knowledge, okay, it was there, but then there was no mental development to make any real use of it. And it was absolutely necessary to lose that faculty of direct intuition of truth, to regain, to redevelop that knowledge in a form that is more practical and more useful for physical life and for the development and evolution of civilization. We can't forever speak about rivers and cows and oxen and stars and things like that. We have to build a civilization, and for that we need a mind, a reason that maybe by now, certainly we all know it has done its job. The expiry date is gone, of that mind and reason, but it had to be developed. And so we should appreciate, first of all, that here Sri Aurobindo again is at the center of all, because he draws that whole stuff that was completely lost back into our consciousness. With all that we have gained in the meantime in civilization, in technology, and scientific knowledge, we are again at an end, at a crossroads, because that scientific knowledge which we now have, that doesn't take us any further except straight into catastrophe. And we may need the next catastrophe to take the next important spiritual step. At any rate, those of us who survive the catastrophe. If you're on the real past, you're going to survive it. If not in this body, there's so many more to come.
Yes. Ulrich, you actually addressed very important topic of the split of the path to the spirit, and that's which ended in India as a Advaitic approach to knowledge, and to the power, which went to the, Chaldean tradition. Chaldean tradition, Semitic tradition took this operation within the power, how to manage alchemy, which led to the science, which led to materialism in the West. As Sri Aurobindo says, that split took place in the Vedic times because, he says, because of the failure of the Vedic rishis to transform this earthly life with the spirit. It's a very difficult enterprise, and humanity was not ready. You're absolutely right. So the split took place. India went for the spirit, forgetting nature, and the West went more towards the nature, forgetting spirit, as it were. Not totally, nothing is total, nothing is absolute here, but this split took place. Now, to bring it back together, that's why he was diving into the Rig Veda. He was looking for that kind of element which unites them both, these two paths. And his sign actually represents this. If you look at the sign of Sri Aurobindo,
but it requires a true synthesis, no? It's not just bringing the things back together, but rising to a level where these two things are no longer separate.
Yes, yes. And this is not an easy task, but everything what helps us, whatever was there, the kind of attempt to do it, he was looking into it. Gita is another synthesis, of course. And then he took Gita for himself. And then the Gita is this liberty, equality, and fraternity. Looking at the Gita is karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and jnana yoga. You will see the same kind of archetypal framework. It's amazing. So Indian tradition is helping us rather than hindering the process of development.
No. Nothing is hindering. There are no obstacles. These are all opportunities.
Absolutely. Just thank you for your thoughts.
Wonderful. Thank you all. We really appreciate that you were able to join the panel today and so freely felt comfortable in participating in this. And we hope to see you throughout this series, including the times that you'll be speaking. And we really appreciate the participants staying with us. We know we're a little over, but we're glad to see everyone and have everyone's thoughts and inputs into this. So have a wonderful weekend, and for many of you, it's Easter weekend. So let us all kind of keep that in mind as we go through the coming day. So thank you all, and we'll hopefully see you in the future. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.